The Chicago Cubs pick up their eighth consecutive victory and another shocking win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Already having won the season series, they look to go for the sweep on Thursday. We'll cover all of those details. Plus, hey, the rumor mill is starting to tread back up again, guys. Apparently, there are potential trade candidates for the Chicago Cubs coming forward. We got to talk about this and the recent report from Bleacher Report. All this and more right after this. Well. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, to this episode. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Now, with that being said, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Also, make sure that you guys, if you are watching on Spotify or on Apple, that you leave a 5-star review. It is greatly appreciated and helps boost the channel and views. Now, with that being said, the Chicago Cubs do go ahead and take care of business. That's right. They get another W. We love it when the Chicago Cubs win. So right here on Chicago Cubs Central, whenever they win, we fly the W. Appreciate you guys so much. And I appreciate the Chicago Cubs coming out and taking care of business in this one. It was the return of Matthew Boyd, who came in and did his part for the Chicago Cubs. Matthew Boyd coming into this game pitching 4 2/3 strong innings, allowing 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts with the 84 pitches and 56 of those being strikeouts, dropping his ERA down to 5.79. Somebody else that you got to kind of give credit to, which is hard for me because I have been very critical of him at times, but it's only because I know how good he could potentially be, is one Ben Brown. Ben Brown came into this game, pitched 2 1/3 inning for the Chicago Cubs, allowing 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 5 strikeouts on 37 pitches, 28 of those being strikes with a 2.37 ERA. Hey, listen, Jed Hoyer said it himself. I was reading an article from an interview that Jed Hoyer gave the other day before one of the games, and he was talking about the fact that Ben Brown could be the secret sauce to the Chicago Cubs' stability and success this season. Ben Brown has been working on that third pitch and working on adding that third pitch. And it has been something of a weapon used by him. And again, he is another guy that is trying to fine tune and find his way. But early on in this season, the Chicago Cubs have leaned on Ben Brown heavily coming out of that bullpen. And for what it's worth, Ben Brown has answered the call pretty much every single time that the Chicago Cubs have asked of him. Now, albeit the season is still very young and you are playing teams that are really struggling and scuffling right now, and it's early in the season, and we'll see what happens when the wind starts blowing out at Wrigley on those hot summer days. But for right now, Ben Brown has shown the ability to handle his business on the mound and keep the Chicago Cubs competitive. Team wide, all our pitchers really deserve a pat on the back. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I was telling him, if you would have told me that the Chicago Cubs would lose Matthew Boyd for a time period, lose Cade Horton for the season, and like I said, Justin Steele won't be ready till sometime early June, late July. Late June, early July. But yet the Chicago Cubs would go on a 8-game win streak, and that it would be anchored by Jameson Taillon, Shota Imanaga, and Edward Cabrera. I would tell you that you're high. There's no way that I had that type of expectation for those 3 gentlemen. And then, of course, you bring in Colin Ray. You got to give him a pat on the back. I always talk about Mr. Reliable. He is that guy. And then, of course, you also want to give a pat on the back to Javier Assad. Javier Assad is somebody that has shown you glimpses of what he can be also. Now, again, he pitches his best ball, it looks like, in the World Baseball Classic. Dude's damn near unhittable in that Baseball Classic. However, when he comes back to the Chicago Cubs, he also does still do his due diligence here also. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching him pitch this season for the Chicago Cubs. I think he's feeding off of what he did in the World Baseball Classic, and we're seeing it now where he's able to continue in that path. And the Chicago Cubs, as well as the Chicago Cubs faithful, appreciate being able to have tools and weapons of this sort. Again, you can't not say enough about Caleb Thielbar. When things look like they're starting to get tight and teams are threatening, we can depend on Caleb to come into the game and shut the door or keep the Chicago Cubs very competitive in the game. So again, the Chicago Cubs, welcome back Matthew Boyd. He's back. Hopefully that they keep him on a pitch count restriction. I think that if we want to go the long haul this year with Matthew Boyd and not have him run out of gas, I think that we need to make sure we have him on a pitch count restriction. We need to make sure that he is staying healthy and that he's able to do it for the long haul. We don't want to see multiple IL stints for him. We don't want to see him have to lose him for the season also because we didn't take care of the injury. So again, I hope that he's on the up and up from here, and I hope that he doesn't have really any more injuries from here. But that remains to be seen. Again, he is an older pitcher in the game, so his body, like I said, he has been war torn, and he does also have some injury history. So he is somebody that we have to watch out for. But with that being said, the Chicago Cubs also can shoot a big sigh of relief for two reasons. One, Seiya Suzuki hits another home run in this game. And JD said it during the live broadcast, for hitters, they usually start coming in bunches. So for Seiya Suzuki to get his second home run, second of the day, this one did not go out to Waveland, but it was still a beautiful home run that he knocked out of the park into the bleachers. And again, like I said, it just goes further to boost the morale of the team once Seiya starts hitting. But if anybody needed to hit a home run, if anybody needed to see the ball leave the ballpark, Michael Busch needed to see the ball leave the ballpark. And today he was able to do that on Wednesday night for the Chicago Cubs. He did get his first home run of the season. Hopefully this unlocks something within him where he's able to maybe calm down a little bit. Again, I think more than anything, Michael Busch has found himself putting pressure on himself to be great. I know he probably listens to some of the critics and some of the people out there on these podcasts and social media and the blogs and everything like that put the pressure on him based off of what he did last season. But again, he started out slow this season and he really needed to ramp things up. The Chicago Cubs were needing him to come through. We would have won a lot of those games at the beginning of the season had we had a bat like Michael Busch's, like he was batting last year. So his first home run of the season, sigh of relief for him. He's able to move forward from here and hopefully bang out some more home runs. Hopefully he gets another one tomorrow. But very, very good sign for Michael Busch and for Seiya Suzuki to both homer in this game. The Chicago Cubs will go ahead and face the same Philadelphia Phillies Thursday. It's a 1:20 start time. The Philadelphia Phillies are 8-16. The Chicago Cubs are 15-9 on the season. It's Christopher Sanchez, who is 2-2 with the 1.59 ERA, going up against none other than Edward Cabrera, who is 2-0 with the 2.38 ERA. Edward Cabrera has been a stalwart for the Chicago Cubs this season. We have thoroughly enjoyed watching him pitch. And honestly, I've told you guys, I don't know if I've told you this before. I have told you this before. I'm going to keep saying it. We haven't even seen the best of Edward Cabrera yet. I want you guys to be very clear on this. We haven't seen when he starts locating and finding that strike zone. There are going to be games this season where Edward Cabrera looks absolutely unhittable. And with his when his fastball is going and then he's able to move in some of the stuff that has movement on top of it, he is going to seem damn near unhittable. So I'm very, very excited for you guys to see that version of Edward Cabrera. Again, it just takes time for him. He's still getting used to his surroundings, getting himself grounded here at Wrigley. Again, he's used to playing in the dome. A ballpark with a roof. So like I said, I mean, for him, it's a little bit change of scenery, a little bit different to be playing at Wrigley where primarily all of your games are outside. However, he still boasts one of the best ERAs in all of baseball, and he still is 2-0 for the season. So he's pitched 22 2/3 innings. He has a whip of 1.28. So again, just watching him consistently find his way through this season. And once this dude gets comfortable, it's going to be lights out this season. I'm already knowing that. So Christopher Sanchez on the other side is 2-2. He has pitched to the tune of an ERA of 1.59, barely unhittable himself. He also has a whip of 1.41. And of course, he has pitched 28 and a third innings. So both these guys are stallions for their team. Hits are going to be at a premium in that game on Thursday. This might be a 1-2 game, or a 1-zip game, um, closing things out for the season between these two teams. I know that's weird to say, but these teams won't see each other again after Thursday's game until potentially the postseason, if both of them should make it to the postseason. So very, very interested to see what happens here and how the Chicago Cubs maneuver to sweep another series. This will be the second consecutive sweep in a row if they can take care of business and handle this game against the Phillies on tomorrow. Now, with that being said, there's been a lot of talk about the Chicago Cubs and what they need more than anything. And I think that we all can attest to the fact that the Chicago Cubs need pitching. Without a shadow of a doubt, the Chicago Cubs need pitching. The Bleacher Report, there was an article that came out that reported that the Chicago Cubs could be looking at Logan Gilbert from the Seattle Mariners as somebody that could potentially be dealt to the Chicago Cubs this season. Logan Gilbert is a great pitcher for the Mariners. He is somebody that you absolutely can look at. And for the Mariners, they are struggling right now offensively. And if this persists, then Logan Gilbert could absolutely be someone that the Cubs could look to move in on. So again, his last outing, Logan Gilbert had 3 strikeouts, 2 walks, 6 hits, and 3 earned runs in 4 innings pitched. So again, he's a major league right-hand pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. And again, like I said, he's a 1-3 record with a 4.36 ERA, 35 strikeouts on the season, and a 1.27 whip. At 28 years old, he's a Florida native, and he is somebody that does offer in a lot of he plays to a lot of contact, which actually plays well at Wrigley. But he is somebody that could come in and give the Chicago Cubs some relief. Again, somebody else that we've talked about before, and somebody that I would sincerely like to see the Chicago Cubs maybe look at is none other than Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan is with the Minnesota Twins. Again, he is the right-handed starting pitcher for the Minnesota Twins. I think a deal where you offer up somebody like maybe a Matt Shaw could get this done. The Chicago Cubs are starting to look at revisiting trades, knowing that they are going to be without 2 big arms for a majority of the season. Like I said, with we really don't know what Justin Steele is going to look like once he comes back. It would behoove the Chicago Cubs to make the decision to make one of these trades here in the near future, so that they can pad themselves up and be prepared for when the season starts. Of course, there was all the talk about Lucas Giolito, and I did an episode on that. Lucas Giolito did end up signing with the San Diego Padres on a 1-year, $3 million deal. So definitely something that the Cubs could have afforded. However, I think the Cubs are thinking bigger than Lucas Giolito and a 1-year replacement. I think they're looking at adding another stud to their starting rotation that will bolster things up and potentially move somebody like a Matthew Boyd or even a Jameson Taillon over to the bullpen. So again, I would love to see what the Chicago Cubs could absolutely do as far as maybe making a trade for Joe Ryan or making a trade also for Logan Gilbert. Again, I think Logan Gilbert will come a lot cheaper than Joe Ryan. But again, both these guys are pitchers that the Chicago Cubs could absolutely look at. And again, I'm going to be covering more pitchers as the weeks go on that the Chicago Cubs could potentially look to make trades for. But I also want to know for you guys, who do you guys see out there on the horizon that the Chicago Cubs could potentially make a deal for and bring into the club? So again, we're going to need pitching. Pitching is going to be paramount for the Chicago Cubs. Full on expect the Chicago Cubs to make a trade for pitching, guys. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. I don't think it's a matter if. I think it's a matter of when, especially if the Chicago Cubs are in the race for the Central Division crown this year. I definitely think that they will try to bolster themselves up with more starting pitching and maybe even another reliever. But again, in my eyesight, if you go out and you do the right deal and get a good starting pitcher, then you could turn around and move one of your starters over to relief. I know Jameson Taillon has probably been the most vocal about being willing to move over to relief. So again, we'll just have to see what happens. But listen, that's the episode for today. I appreciate you guys so much. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Fly the W. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.